Where did that bullet come from? Troops were left speechless after a stunning 3,200-meter shot. A group of soldiers were moving through a valley, doing what soldiers do. Staying alert, staying low, watching every shadow. Nobody expected what was about to happen. About 2 miles away, and when we say 2 miles, we really mean nearly 2 miles of open ground, rocky hills, thin mountain air, and wind that changes direction every few minutes. One man was lying completely still. He had been lying there for hours. He hadn't moved. He hadn't eaten. He had barely blinked. He was a military sniper, and he was about to do something that even the world's best soldiers would struggle to believe. He took a slow breath. He let half of it out, and then he fired. 4 seconds passed. In normal life, 4 seconds is nothing. You can sneeze in 4 seconds. You can pour a cup of tea. But in a war zone, 4 seconds of silence after a shot is an eternity. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Everyone just waited. Then the confirmation came over the radio. One word, and the soldiers in that valley looked at each other with wide eyes and said, "Where did that bullet come from?" To understand how extraordinary this moment was, you have to understand what a 3,200-meter shot actually means. Most people, when they hear that number, nod politely and move on. But let's slow down for a second. 3,200 meters is roughly 3.2 kilometers. That is about 2 miles. Now think about 2 miles. Think about standing at one end of a long straight road and trying to see something at the other end. You probably can't even make it out clearly with your naked eyes. And this man not only saw his target at that distance, he hit it. With a single shot. At that range, a bullet doesn't travel in a straight line. It follows a curve. It drops because of gravity. It drifts because of wind. It slows down as it travels. And here's the part that sounds like it belongs in a science textbook, not a war story. At 3,200 meters, a sniper has to account for the rotation of the Earth. The planet actually spins enough during those 4 seconds of bullet flight to affect where the shot lands. The sniper has to build that into his aim before he even pulls the trigger. This is not Hollywood. This is real life. And real life, it turns out, is far more incredible than any movie. It doesn't happen because someone got lucky. It happens because of years, sometimes decades, of dedication, training, and a very specific kind of mental strength that most people will never fully understand. He had grown up in a small town, in an ordinary family, with ordinary problems. He wasn't the strongest kid in his school. He wasn't the loudest. But from a very early age, the people around him noticed something different about him, a quality that was hard to name, but easy to see once you knew what to look for. He was patient, unusually patient. While other kids grew restless, fidgeted, and got bored, he could sit quietly for long stretches of time without losing focus. It wasn't laziness. It was concentration. Deep, steady, almost unnatural concentration. His teachers thought he was daydreaming. He wasn't. He was watching, processing, taking everything in. When he joined the military, that quality caught the attention of his training instructors almost immediately. They recommended him for sniper school. He accepted without hesitation. Sniper school is not like regular military training. It is harder in ways that are difficult to describe unless you've been through it. Yes, there is physical toughness involved. Running, crawling, carrying heavy loads across rough terrain. But the real challenge is mental. Trainee snipers are taught something called a stalk. This is an exercise where they have to move across open ground without being seen. They wear camouflage suits that are sometimes hand-built with local leaves and grass. They move in slow motion, sometimes covering just a few meters in an hour. A slight sound, a sudden movement, even the wrong shadow, and they are spotted. They fail. He didn't fail. Not once. His instructors later said that watching him move was like watching the ground come alive. He had a gift for becoming invisible. Not just physically, mentally too. He could slow his mind down to match his body, staying completely calm under pressure that would crack most people. By the time he completed his training and was deployed, he was not just a soldier with a rifle. He was one of the most precisely skilled human beings on the planet, a tool built for one single purpose: to do the impossible, once, when it mattered most. The mission that brought him to that rocky hillside came from months of intelligence gathering. Military planners had identified a significant threat, someone who had been responsible for organizing attacks that had already cost Allied soldiers their lives. Sending in a ground team was considered too dangerous. The terrain was too open, the risk too high, and there was no guarantee of success. So the decision was made to do it differently. One man, one rifle, one shot. He received the briefing the night before. He studied maps. He studied weather reports. He calculated the wind patterns, not just at his position, but all the way along the path the bullet would need to travel. He talked through variables with his spotter, a fellow soldier who would lie beside him and serve as his eyes, his calculator, and his partner through the whole operation. They moved into position in complete darkness, hours before dawn. They crawled to a rocky ledge on a high ridge and settled in. Below them, nearly 2 miles away, was the target area. They covered themselves with their gear, controlled their breathing, and waited. 11 hours. That's how long they lay there. 11 hours without standing up, without eating a real meal, without being able to talk in more than a whisper. The temperature dropped, the sun rose, moved across the sky, and began to sink again, Soldiers in other positions occasionally came on the radio with updates. They responded in short, quiet bursts of words and went back to waiting. The spotter had a high-powered observation scope and was feeding the sniper constant small updates. Wind speed at 500 meters. Wind speed at 1,000 meters. Temperature change. Humidity. Tiny shifts in conditions that, at this range, could mean the difference between a perfect shot and a complete miss. The sniper himself was in what experienced shooters sometimes call the zone, a state of almost meditative calm where the outside world fades away and everything narrows down to the scope, the crosshairs, and the breath. His heart rate was slow, his hands were steady. He wasn't thinking about the distance, he was thinking about the math. And then, eventually, he wasn't even thinking about the math. He had done it so many times in training that it had become instinct. His body knew what to do. He just had to let it. When the target appeared in the area the intelligence had predicted, the spotter confirmed it quietly. The sniper made the final small adjustments to his aim. Adjustments so tiny that you couldn't see them from the outside, but so important that getting them wrong by even a fraction would mean the shot went wide. He thought about the wind, he thought about the drop, he thought about the rotation of the Earth, actually factoring in the spin of the planet into his aim. Because at 3,200 meters, you have to. Then he stopped thinking. He let his body take over. He pressed the trigger slowly. Not a jerk. Not a pull. A slow, controlled squeeze. The kind that doesn't disturb the aim even at the final moment. Then it happened, confirmed. The spotter turned to him and just stared for a moment. Then he said, very quietly, "That's it. That's the shot." Back at the forward operating base, when the confirmation came through on the radio, there was a moment of complete silence. Then someone said it. The question that would circle through military circles for years afterward. Where did that bullet come from? Nobody laughed. It wasn't that kind of moment. It was the kind of question that people ask when they've just witnessed something that doesn't fit into their normal understanding of what's possible. When reality has just stepped outside the lines they had drawn for it. The shot was later officially recorded and confirmed. At 3,200 meters, it stood as one of the longest confirmed sniper shots in military history. Ballistics experts analyzed it afterward. They ran simulations. They checked the math over and over. Everything lined up. The shot was real. The distance was real. The result was real. One of the experts who studied the shot later said that what made it so remarkable wasn't just the distance. It was the consistency. Everything had to go right. The preparation, the patience, the calculation, the physical execution. A single error anywhere in that chain, and the shot fails. He got everything right. All of it. He cleaned his rifle. Snipers always clean their rifles before anything else. And then he sat down with his spotter, and they talked about what had worked and what they would do differently next time. That's the thing about people who are truly exceptional at something. They don't see the peak as the destination. They see it as a data point. His fellow soldiers treated him differently after that, though. Not in a showy way. More in the way that people treat someone after they've watched them do something that doesn't seem humanly possible. A quiet kind of respect. The type that doesn't need words. Someone asked him later how he felt after making the shot. He thought about it for a moment, then he said, "Relieved that I didn't miss." Years have passed since that morning on the mountain ridge. The details of the operation are still partly classified. The name of the soldier involved is not widely known outside military circles. But the record stands. The story is real. And it has been passed around in training rooms and military briefings ever since. Not just as a technical achievement, but as a lesson in what human beings are capable of when they prepare properly, stay calm under pressure, and trust in their own training. There is something deeply powerful about a story like this. Not because of the violence of it, because real war is never something to celebrate, but because of what it says about the human mind, about patience, about preparation, about the extraordinary things that become possible when someone dedicates themselves fully to mastering something difficult. Most of us will never fire a rifle. Most of us will never lie on a cold mountain for 11 hours waiting for a single moment. But the core of what that soldier did, the patience, the focus, the trust in his own preparation, that belongs to all of us. It shows up in operating rooms, in music halls, on sports fields, in kitchens and classrooms and construction sites. Greatness, at its core, is just preparation meeting the right moment. And on that quiet morning, 2 miles away from a valley full of soldiers who couldn't believe their eyes, one man proved that better than any textbook ever could. End of story.